I don't just talk about other people's stuff, I also make my own. Books in particular. To date, I have 4 books you can check out on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and the short story collection Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Hop on down to the description for Amazon links to all 4 books. Enjoy whichever ones you read, and enjoy the video.
Good news, Omni. Rodney and his folks just flew in for their annual Christmas visit.
They're already helping themselves to whatever's in the fridge. Long flights make us hungry. Speaking of which, what's eating you?
Well, I'm just at a loss for this year's Christmas review, and not for lack of material.
Oh yeah? What's the problem then?
Attitude. Have you seen the landscape out there? The Christmas movies getting the most attention these days are horror-themed reinterpretations of Santa and the Grinch, and those are just the examples from this year.
Yeah, he's not kidding.
Okay, so how does that affect you?
I just see it as a sign of the times, really. You know, back in the day, movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas and Black Christmas stood out because they were atypical and infrequent. Nobody expected Christmas movies to be weird and violent, so that made them different from the norm. Today, though, so many people are trying to make their own subversive Christmas movies that the concept accidentally went mainstream. On top of that, the Krampus has suddenly become everyone's favorite new Christmas mascot. People had never even heard of the Krampus before a few years ago, outside of a very specific region of continental Europe. But now all of a sudden, everyone's latching onto him, probably just because he looks like the devil. No real understanding of the actual lore and cultural significance.
In short, when everything is subversive, nothing is, right?
Pretty much. Feels like the only way left to be subversive about Christmas is to embrace its spirit unironically.
Alright, so why not embrace that spirit? Review something that goes against the grain. In fact, I got just the thing in mind.
Oh, not a Hallmark movie, I hope.
Nah, even those things are self-aware these days. I was thinking The Ghosts of Christmas Eve by Siberian Orchestra. That seems to be right up your alley.
Oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? Sure, let's do it. I'll meet you in the studio. Alright, let's get this started the proper way.
In case you somehow missed it, Trans-Siberian Orchestra is a symphonic neoclassical rock band spun off from another symphonic rock band called Savatage in the late 90s. The band's debut album was a Yuletide rock opera entitled Christmas Eve and Other Stories, and it was a hit pretty much from day one. In a sea of novelty singles sung by artists with varying degrees of investment, TSO won people over through a combination of passion and storytelling that made even the most familiar of carols sound fresh and new, to say nothing of their impressive live shows.
Given that Christmas is an easy sell in pretty much any market, you could say that a TSO Christmas special was really a question of when rather than if. It turns out that when was 1999, and that special was entitled The Ghosts of Christmas Eve.
The film takes a number of songs from the band's first 2 albums, but rather than adapt the stories of either one, it instead tells a story of its own. The setup is pretty simple. We follow a teenage girl who ran away from home some time ago after what's implied to be an ugly falling out with her parents. She's had a change of heart and wants to go home, but she's afraid that she might not be welcomed back, and she can't afford a bus ticket anyway. On Christmas Eve, she wanders into a seemingly abandoned theater for shelter from the cold, only to find it's not so abandoned after all. What follows is an unusual evening in which she's treated to her own private concert that might be a dream or might be divine intervention, but it will definitely change her perspective.
Admittedly, the plot for this one is very slim.
It's not like we have a sprawling narrative for this short. The main focus is on the band's performance, very much like a music video that happens to be just under feature length. Heck, the majority of the story, such as it is, consists mostly of our young runaway watching the band perform on stage, with a brief detour to a kinetoscope where she watches a music video.
So we're watching someone watching something. Talk about meta.
And how. Then again, the main point is to showcase the band playing some of its greatest hits from that time, so I can't say it doesn't make sense.
If you've heard TSO, and given their popularity I'm guessing you must have, you don't need me to tell you that the music is amazing.
Like I said earlier, Christmas music had become somewhat trite by the time this band rolled around. I mean, sure, there are some artists who love performing Christmas music, but there are many who just don't seem to care all that much about it.
Yeah, I've lost count of how many Christmas songs I've heard where the singer sounds bored, like they're just doing it because the label told them to. It's a disgrace, I tell ya. A jingle-jangling disgrace. Jingle-jangling? That's how we cuss up north. Is that so?
Yet TSO stands out because they don't sound bored.
When you listen to their albums or see them live, you believe that they really embrace the spirit of the season. They embrace joy and want to spread it through song, and that joy shines through with such strength that the audience can't help but feel joyful as well. You would be hard-pressed not to at least bob your head along to the tunes.
In terms of actual production value, the video is very well made, but not especially flashy. I remember when I saw TSO live, they had video screens and lasers and fog and flame effects and a giant swinging pendulum that was on fire in the background.
Here, things are kept a bit simpler, with a basic starry backdrop, some fog for atmosphere, and an indoor snow effect at the end. The main focus is on the band and the singers, who range from TSO regulars to solo guest stars like Jewel. In context, it makes sense that the production would be a bit simpler, since this is an abandoned theater with only one real audience member and it might not even be real. Only the Sarajevo segment gets more elaborate with the set and effects, but that's an actual movie within a movie, so it naturally would have a different aesthetic.
This is one of those times where simple is not a synonym for cheap. The video may not be especially flashy, but it both looks and sounds very impressive. Now, of course, we have reached the point where we must go deeper, because the Ghosts of Christmas Eve actually has something to say, and its message is inextricably tied to the holiday which it so shamelessly celebrates.
Consider the framing device. The show happens because of a young runaway who wants to return home, but she isn't sure she can. The only hint we get of her past is an unfinished letter to her parents in which she apologizes for something that's been scratched out.
This implies that whatever happened, it was something she did that drove the wedge between her and her family. If nothing else, she played a part in the falling out and now feels guilty for it.
The fact that this letter is unfinished and unsent tells us that our runaway is afraid about returning, unsure if she will be forgiven and accepted back into her home.
Enter the caretaker of the old theater.
Whether he is a living man, a friendly ghost, or a guardian angel, he understands the girl's plight and knows just how to help her. We see at the end that he is capable of giving her money so she can afford the trip, but that only solves part of the problem. First, she needs to believe that she even has a home to go back to, so he treats her to a private Christmas concert. These are the songs featured in the film. Pause if you want to read through each title. Notice anything about them?
Oh, I know this one. They're all religiously themed, right?
That they are, my old friend. That they are.
There's nothing about Santa Claus, talking snowmen, or elves who want to be dentists here. The focus is predominantly on the birth of Jesus Christ, and the entire reason why he was born in the first place.
This girl is worried that she might not be forgiven for whatever she did, but the entire point of Christ coming to earth was the ultimate act of forgiveness. These songs are imparting to her the very source of redemption. Read the book if you want the finer details.
This message about redemption through the ultimate Redeemer is interspersed with songs about sentimental memories, realized both visually and lyrically.
It's important to specify the word sentimental for the sake of this story.
Our runaway worries that she might not be welcomed back home because the negative aspects of her past will be remembered. But these songs introduce the idea that over time, people are more likely to remember the good in their lives than the bad, especially during a season like Christmas time.
So in all likelihood, her parents aren't holding a grudge. They just miss her and wish she would come home.
This all culminates with a simple message. On this night, it's never too late. Thanks to everything she's seen and heard that night, the runaway understands that message, and so she takes the leap of faith, culminating in her return home to the loving embrace of her mother and father, underscored by the father appearing in the theater, joyously singing about the moment.
Are you crying? No, I just got some tinsel in my eye.
Schmaltzy? Sure. But it's also sincere, which is what makes it work.
As I've said several times now, we don't know the specifics of the runaway's past. That's because it doesn't matter, and the reason is twofold. First, it doesn't matter because it could be anything, from a minor infraction to an unspeakable act. Second, it doesn't matter because no matter what she did, she's not irredeemable. No one is. That's the reason Christmas became a holiday. It's a yearly reminder that we can all be saved no matter what we've done, because we are loved.
And that is the sentiment I want to leave you with this Christmas.
The past few years have been rough, it's true, and people keep giving in to hatred the harder things get. The thing is that to hate and condemn are easy actions, but they don't really make things better. To love and forgive can be difficult, but in my experience, they get much better results. It's not just enough to love and forgive those who have wronged you, though. You must also be willing to seek that love and forgiveness for yourself if you have wronged others, which might be the hardest thing of all. I can't guarantee that it will work out as neatly as it does in the special, but if you don't try, it will never work out at all.
So in the spirit of the season, be open to forgiving and being forgiven. Be willing to love and be loved. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see things start to improve. All right, I've said my piece. The rest is up to you. From all of us here at the channel, I'm the Omni viewer saying glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill to men. Merry Christmas. Now that was beautiful. So who's up for some cookies? Only always, you jingle-jangling little freak. That was uncalled for.
Congratulations, you reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to consider supporting us on Patreon. Of course, the other way to support us is to go to Amazon and check out our books, Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, The Occult Mafia, Emerald of Maddox City, and Assorted Absurdities, Tales of Kaiju Punk and Other Genres. Also check the description for links to DeviantArt and other platforms we operate. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.